The moment I saw my belongings piled in the hallway like garbage, I knew my family had finally shown their true colors. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this betrayal for years. And by sunrise, they'd learn exactly who owned what in this house. If you're watching, subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from. My name is Margaret Chen, and at 68, I'd spent 40 years building my family's wealth while they treated me like furniture. That December night changed everything. I'd returned from a 3-day medical conference in Boston, exhausted but satisfied. As Chief of Cardiology at Presbyterian Hospital, these conferences were mandatory. My daughter Linda had assured me she'd handle the house while I was gone. The taxi dropped me at our brownstone at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because that's when my life split into before and after. My key wouldn't turn. After 3 attempts, the door opened to reveal my son-in-law Brad, wearing my late husband's robe. "Margaret, you're back early." The conference ended today, as I told Linda. "Why are you wearing Charles's robe?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Linda said we could use your room since you were gone. More space for the kids." My blood chilled. "Where are my things?" "We figured you could take the guest room when you got back." 40 years of medical training kept my voice steady. "The guest room? Yeah, it's smaller, but you don't need much space, right? Linda says you're hardly here anyway." I stepped past him, my heels clicking on marble I'd paid to install. In the hallway, my life lay in boxes. Medical journals, awards, photo albums, for decades reduced to a pile. Linda appeared at the top of the stairs in my silk pajamas. "Mum, why are you making noise?" "The kids are sleeping." In my bed, apparently, she rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. Brad's parents are visiting next week, and we needed to test the master suite. You always said family comes first." "I said that when you were 8 and scared of thunderstorms. Not when you're 35 and stealing my room." "Stealing, Mum. This is a family home. We all share." I pulled out my phone. "Let me share something with you." Her face shifted. "What are you doing?" "Calling my lawyer. Unlike you, Martin works nights." Martin answered on the second ring. We'd been preparing for this possibility since Charles died 5 years ago, leaving everything to me despite Linda's expectations. "Margaret, is it time?" "It's time." "Bring the documents." Linda rushed down the stairs. I sat on my packed boxes, crossing my ankles like the lady my mother raised. "Brad, you might want to wake the children. You'll need to pack." "Pack." His voice cracked. "Linda, what's she talking about?" Linda's face had gone pale. "Mum, let's discuss this rationally." "Rationally? You gave away my room to test it for your in-laws. Let's discuss property law instead." By 12:30 a.m., Martin arrived with his paralegal. Linda had woken my grandchildren, who stood confused in the hallway. I hated that they'd witnessed this, but their parents had forced my hand. "Mrs. Chen owns this property outright. Martin began, spreading papers on the dining table I'd bought for my first anniversary. "The deed is solely in her name," Linda sputtered. "But Dad promised—" "Your father promised many things," I interrupted, "but he left everything to me. I have his will right here." Martin produced the document. Furthermore, the renovation costs, mortgage payments, and property taxes for the past 30 years all came from Mrs. Chen's accounts. "Because she was the doctor," Brad protested. "That doesn't mean. It means exactly what it says," Martin continued. "Legal ownership. Now, regarding the tenant agreement you signed, Linda ... My daughter's face went white. "What tenant agreement?" I smiled. "The one you signed 5 years ago when you moved back in. You pay $500 monthly for the guest suite. It specifically states you have no claim to other areas without written permission. You tricked me. You said it was for tax purposes. I said it was for legal purposes. You chose not to read it." Martin's paralegal handed me another folder. "There's more. Mrs. Chen recently purchased the entire building. Even I hadn't expected that bomb to land so hard." Linda sat heavily in a chair. "The whole building," Brad whispered. 6 units, I confirmed. "I closed the deal last month. The previous owner gave me an excellent price, considering I'd been maintaining the common areas for years." Linda found her voice. "With what money?" "My money. From my practice, my investments, and my patents on 3 cardiac devices. Money you assumed would automatically be yours. But you're our mother, yes. And you're the daughter who just gave my room to a guest. Tell me, Linda, what did you plan to do when I got too old to climb stairs? Move me to the basement?" Her silence was answer enough. Martin cleared his throat. "Given the breach of the tenant agreement, Mrs. Chen is within her rights to begin eviction proceedings." "Eviction?" Brad stood. "You can't evict us. We have children." "Which is why I'm offering an alternative," I said. "You can stay in the guest suite as specified in your original agreement. Your belongings will be moved by morning. The guest suite is tiny. It's 900 square feet, larger than most Manhattan apartments. Of course, if it's too small, you're welcome to rent elsewhere." Linda's tears started. "How can you do this to your own daughter?" I stood my back straight, despite the exhaustion. "The same way you did it to your mother." Without a second thought, the next hours blurred together. Brad tried anger, then bargaining, then threats about grandparent visitation. Martin shut down each attempt with legal precedent. By 3 a.m., they were moving boxes. I supervised from the kitchen, sipping tea from my grandmother's china. The children, thankfully, had fallen asleep on the couch. "Where will we put everything?" Linda wailed, carrying a box of Brad's sports memorabilia, "the same place you put mine." "The hallway, until you sort it out." Brad dropped a box, glaring. "This is elder abuse. We'll sue." Martin didn't even look up from his paperwork. "On what grounds Mrs. Chen is providing you with housing at below market rates? She's being vindictive. She's being a landlord." Martin corrected. A generous one, considering market rates for that suite are $3,500 monthly. I watched them struggle with furniture, the same way they'd watched me struggle with my boxes. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. By 5 a.m., the master suite was mine again. I stood in the doorway, surveying the damage. They'd changed everything. My curtains, my bedding, even the paint color. "I'll send cleaners in the morning," Martin said quietly, "and painters." "No," I touched the gaudy purple wall. "I'll keep it for a while." A reminder Linda appeared one last time, mascara streaking her cheeks. "I hope you're happy." "I'm not," I admitted. "But I'm no longer a doormat. We're your family. Family doesn't exile family to the guest room. Family doesn't pile 40 years of memories in a hallway like trash." She turned to leave, then spun back. "What about Christmas? You're welcome to visit. Visiting hours are 2 to 5 p.m. You can use the common room I'm installing on the second floor. Common room for all my tenants. Since I own the building, I'm making improvements. The second floor will have a lovely gathering space." Her face crumbled. "You chose to be tenants when you chose to treat me like one." The sun rose as they finished moving. I stood at my bedroom window, watching the city wake. My phone buzzed with messages from my other children, the ones who'd moved away and stayed away. Word traveled fast in our family. My son Michael called from Seattle. "Mum, Linda says you evicted her." "I relocated her to the space she deemed appropriate for me." He paused. "The guest room. The very same good." His support surprised me. "You approve. I've watched her take advantage for years." "Did you really buy the building? Every brick?" He laughed. "Dad would be proud. Your father would have let her walk all over him." "No, Mum. Dad left everything to you for a reason. He knew you'd protect the family legacy, even from family effed." After we hung up, I walked through my reclaimed space. In the closet, I found a box they'd missed. My wedding album shoved behind Brad's golf clubs. I flipped through pages of younger faces, dreams still intact. Charles and I had built this life together, brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. He'd trusted me to preserve it. A knock interrupted my memories. Linda stood in the doorway, holding coffee. "Peace offering." I accepted the mug. "Thank you, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't think." "No, you didn't." We sat in silence, the weight of broken trust between us. "Can we fix this?" she asked. "That depends. Can you see me as a person instead of a resource?" She flinched. "I never." "You did. Every time you assumed my space, my time, my money was yours by right. Every time you planned my future without asking it. We thought we were helping, taking care of you. I'm a cardiac surgeon. I've saved more lives than you've had birthdays. I don't need taking care of. I need respect." She nodded slowly. "How do we start?" "By honoring the agreement you signed. By teaching your children that grandparents are people, not a team or spare rooms. By rebuilding trust one day at a time." And the building, I smiled, is my retirement project. I'm converting it into affordable housing for medical students. The Margaret Chen Foundation will manage it. Her eyes widened. A foundation. Did you think I'd leave millions in real estate to children who de-put me in a hallway? She had the grace to look ashamed. Over the following weeks, the building transformed. I hired contractors, met with architects, interviewed potential tenants. The work energized me in ways surgery hadn't for years. Brad struggled most with the change. He'd grown comfortable living off my largesse, working part-time while Linda worked full-time, assuming her inheritance would sustain them. "You've ruined us," he accused one morning, passing me in the hall. "I've freed you," I corrected. "Now you can build your own legacy instead of waiting for mine." The grandchildren adapted fastest. Without the tension of assumed inheritance, they began seeing me as a person. We had real conversations about their dreams, their fears, their futures. "Grandma," my granddaughter asked one day, "why did you become a doctor?" "Because I wanted to fix hearts." Turns out some hearts can't be fixed. They have to fix themselves. She nodded solemnly, wisdom beyond her 8 years. Like mummies. Exactly like mummies. 3 months later, I hosted a building meeting in the new common room. 5 medical students had moved in, bright faces full of promise. Linda and Brad attended, sitting quietly in the back. "Welcome to the Margaret Chen House," I began. "This building represents second chances." For all of us, I caught Linda's eye. She nodded, understanding. After the meeting, she approached. "The students seem nice. They remind me of myself at that age. Hungry to help, to heal, to matter. You always mattered, Mum. Not in this house. Not until I demanded it." She touched my hand. "I'm learning. Slowly, but I'm learning. That's all I ask." A year passed. The building thrived. The students brought energy, purpose, life to halls that had felt like a mausoleum. I mentored them, sharing decades of medical wisdom over weekly dinners. Linda and Brad found their footing. He returned to school for his teaching degree. She started therapy, unpacking years of entitlement and expectation. Their marriage, surprisingly, strengthened under the pressure. "You saved us," Linda told me one evening, watching her children play with the medical students in the common room. "We were drowning in our own assumptions. You saved yourselves. I just stopped enabling the drowning." My phone rang. Another of my children calling to check in. Since the night of the Great Reorganization, as the family called it, my distant children had grown closer. They'd seen me stand up for myself and found the courage to reconnect. "Mum," my daughter Sarah said from London, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For choosing yourself. For showing us that love doesn't mean being a doormat." After we hung up, I walked through my building. In the study room, students bent over textbooks. In the common room, laughter echoed. In the guest suite, my daughter's family had found their own rhythm, and in the master suite, I slept peacefully in my own bed, in my own space, on my own terms. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd chosen. My belongings sat where I'd placed them. My life was my own. At breakfast, Linda joined me. Mom, I've been thinking about what you said about seeing you as a person, and I see you. The woman who worked 36-hour shifts while raising us, who held Dad's hand through cancer, who built this life through sheer will, and I'm sorry it took losing my room to find that vision. I poured her coffee. Sometimes we need to lose what we take for granted to appreciate what we have. Like you, like me, we sat in comfortable silence, two women finding their way back to each other. The building hummed with life around us, students rushing to class, workers starting renovations on the top floor, my grandchildren getting ready for school. What's happening upstairs? Linda asked. I'm creating a surgical simulation lab. The students need practical training space. Her eyes widened. That must cost. What good is money if not to build futures? She smiled. Dad always said you'd change the world, one heart at a time, one student at a time, one building at a time, one daughter at a time. I squeezed her hand. That too, Brad appeared with the children, ready for school. He nodded respectfully. Morning, Margaret. Good morning, Brad. How's the teaching program? Challenging, rewarding. Thank you for the recommendation letter. You earned it. As they left, my granddaughter hugged me. Love you, Grandma. See you at dinner. Wouldn't miss it. I watched them go, my family finding their way in a new dynamic. The building door closed behind them, and I turned to my day. Surgeries awaited. Students needed mentoring. The foundation required attention. But first, I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, my sanctuary, my space. The purple walls had been repainted a soft blue. The gaudy fixtures replaced with classic elegance. But I kept one reminder. A photo from that night. My belongings piled in the hallway. It sat on my dresser, a testament to the moment I chose myself, the moment I stopped being furniture in my own home, the moment I remembered that respect isn't inherited, it's earned. My phone buzzed. Another student asking for guidance, another child checking in, another day of a life lived on my terms. I smiled, straightening my white coat. Dr. Margaret Chen had rounds to make, hearts to heal, futures to build. But first, she had a building to run, a family to love properly, and a legacy to protect. The guest room had been a demotion in their eyes. The master suite, a prize to be claimed. They'd learned that night that rooms are just walls and windows. Home is built on respect, maintained by boundaries, and protected by those brave enough to demand both. Your voice matters. Share your story in the comments below. Have you ever had to stand up to family who took you for granted? How did you reclaim your space and dignity? Names and some details have been changed for privacy.